We're at the number one thing we can do to advocate for God's design for marriage. Whether you are married or single, joyfully live into the marriage metaphor you have been called. If you have been called to singleness, whether it's for your whole life or for a temporary time, joyfully do it. When we are begrudging it or we're constantly saying that, I just wish I had my person, our LGBT friends who are hearing this are like, yeah, me too. But when we're like, yeah, I still have this ache or I have this longing, but I'm married to Jesus. You metaphor to us married people how we're going to be in eternity when there's no marriage except the marriage between Christ and the church, when you joyfully live in communion, when union with God and community with the church, you show us heaven. I'm thinking of my friend Peter, who does this well, who started this modern day monastery in Nashville, and he's committed to celibacy and singleness to the glory of God. And the world looks at him and they don't get it. And yet part of them craves it. Or another single friend who's been single for the majority of her life. She's in her 70s now, and when I'm with her, she'll talk to me and then she'll talk to Jesus like he's right there. Because he is. And I'm like looking around for him and I'm like, oh my goodness, I could have that relationship with Jesus because she's so married to him. The world looks at her and they don't get it, and yet something in them craves it. And if we are married, we need to stop the gender joking and the eye rolling at, oh men, oh women, and we need to celebrate and die to our version of brokenness to be one with our spouse. Yes, I do that with my sexual brokenness, but also just my selfishness. In Matt, my husband, he dies to himself, and he's not always naturally attracted to me. Believe me, I'm not that cute. And he, before our marriage pain, he dealt with pornography addiction and all of that. And so he dies to his natural, to himself, fleshly defaults to be one with me. And I pray that when the world sees us at the grocery store and in our neighborhoods and in our home, that they see God. I'm thinking of one of my friends, my assistant Amanda, and when her husband came forward to her with his alcohol addiction, his pornography addiction, and cheating on her as a pastor. And she saw his repentant heart. That modeled to me when she loved him, where he was at. That told me, I said, oh God, I cheat on you so much, Jesus. And yet you want oneness with me. The world doesn't get that, and yet the world craves that. Or my friend Ben, who wrestles with his biological gender, and he's sexually attracted to his wife, but he wrestles with his biological gender, and he's fighting for both difference from his wife, and yet union with his wife. And I think, God, you're so different from me, and yet you want union with me. The world doesn't get it, and yet something in them wants it. That's why this is the most important thing, guys. We need to joyfully live into the marriage metaphor that we've been called. The world won't get it, but they'll want it. They'll want him. Which that's the whole